Learn English with story. Someone was following her, level 3 listening, graded reader. The first sound she heard was not the rain. It was the slow, steady echo of footsteps behind her. Every time she walked a little faster, the footsteps seemed to match her pace. The empty street stretched into the darkness, and every shadow looked alive. Emily felt her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She wanted to turn around, but fear kept her eyes fixed on the road ahead. In that single moment, she realized that sometimes the greatest danger is not what we can see, it is what we cannot understand. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that touch the heart, please like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us create more inspiring stories for everyone. Emily was 26 years old and had recently moved to a quiet town after losing her mother. Life had changed faster than she could understand. Only a few months earlier, she had been surrounded by family, laughter, and familiar streets. Now she lived alone in a small apartment above an old bakery where the smell of fresh bread greeted her every morning. She worked at the local library, arranging books and helping children discover the joy of reading. The job did not pay much, but it gave her peace. Still, every evening when she walked home, the silence reminded her that the world could feel incredibly lonely. The town itself looked peaceful. Small brick houses lined the streets, colorful flowers decorated front yards, and neighbors usually greeted each other with warm smiles. Yet Emily always felt that something was missing. She often caught herself looking over her shoulder without knowing why. At first, she thought it was only anxiety caused by her recent loss. Grief had a strange way of making ordinary things feel frightening. One Friday evening, the library closed later than usual because of a community reading event. Families slowly left the building while the sun disappeared behind thick gray clouds. Emily packed the remaining books, locked the front door, and began the 15-minute walk home. Rain started falling gently, covering the sidewalks with a silver shine. She wrapped her coat tightly around herself and continued walking. A few minutes later, she heard footsteps. At first they sounded distant. She ignored them. Many people walked home after work. But when she crossed the first intersection, the footsteps crossed too. She slowed down near a flower shop, pretending to admire the window display. The footsteps slowed as well. A cold wave of fear spread through her body. She continued walking, convincing herself that she was imagining everything. Her breathing became heavier. Streetlights reflected on the wet pavement while the rain became stronger. Every shadow seemed larger than before. She finally gathered enough courage to look behind her. Far away stood a tall man wearing a dark jacket. His face remained hidden beneath a hood. The moment Emily turned, he stopped walking. She quickly faced forward again, trying to remain calm. Perhaps it was only a coincidence. Perhaps he simply lived in the same neighborhood. She repeated those thoughts again and again, but they failed to quiet the fear growing inside her. For the next several nights, the same thing happened. Whenever Emily finished work and walked home, she noticed the same distant figure. He never came close enough to speak. He never smiled. He simply appeared several yards behind her and disappeared before she reached her apartment building. The strange routine slowly changed Emily's life. She stopped taking evening walks through the park. She avoided staying late at work. She even began checking every window before going to sleep. The cheerful young woman who once loved quiet evenings became someone trapped by constant worry. Her coworkers noticed the difference. Dark circles formed beneath her eyes, and her smile became less frequent. She blamed stress and never mentioned the mysterious stranger. She feared people would think she was overreacting. Days turned into weeks. One afternoon, while organizing old newspapers in the library basement, Emily found a faded photograph tucked inside an old history book. The picture showed the town nearly 50 years earlier. Standing outside the same library was a young police officer helping an elderly woman carry heavy books. On the back someone had written, "Kindness is never forgotten." Emily stared at the words for several minutes. They reminded her of something her mother often said. Kindness could travel farther than fear. That evening, instead of rushing home, Emily decided to stop at the neighborhood cafe. She sat near the window with a cup of hot tea, hoping the busy place would ease her anxiety. As she looked outside, she noticed the same hooded man standing across the street. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking farther down the road. Emily followed his gaze and saw 3 teenagers arguing loudly with an elderly man carrying grocery bags. One of the bags suddenly fell, sending fruit rolling across the sidewalk. Before Emily could react, the hooded stranger quietly walked over, picked up every piece of fruit, handed the bags back to the elderly man, and continued walking away without saying a single word. Emily was confused. The image she had created in her mind did not match what she had just witnessed. Still, questions remained. Why had he been following her every evening? Why did he always disappear before she reached home? Why had he never spoken? The answers came unexpectedly on a stormy Tuesday night. The rain poured harder than ever as Emily left the library carrying a backpack full of books. Strong winds shook the trees, and the streets were almost empty. She hurried toward home, unaware that someone else had already noticed another man hiding near the entrance of her apartment building. The hooded stranger was no longer following her. This time, he was running. He rushed past Emily without saying a word and reached the apartment entrance just as another figure stepped out from the darkness. Everything happened in seconds. Emily froze, unable to understand what was unfolding before her. Before the ending, we'd love to hear from you. Please comment below, what would you have done if you realized someone had been following you every night? As the truth unfolded, Emily learned that fear can sometimes hide the face of courage. The mysterious man had quietly watched over her because he had noticed someone else repeatedly waiting near her apartment after dark. He had reported his suspicions to local police while keeping his distance so he wouldn't frighten her even more. That stormy night, officers arrived moments later and arrested the real suspect, who had been targeting women walking home alone. Emily finally understood that appearances can deceive, and that genuine kindness is often silent, expecting nothing in return. Months later, Emily no longer walked with fear. She smiled at neighbors, volunteered to help others, and remembered the words written on the old photograph, "Kindness is never forgotten." The experience changed her forever. Instead of allowing fear to control her life, she chose gratitude, courage, and compassion. She realized that even during our darkest moments, there may be someone quietly protecting us without asking for recognition. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories that inspire hope, courage, and kindness around the world. The end.